https://www.youtube.com/watch?v=IMLT7RC5RVQ. Stop what you are doing right now because the ultimate Beverly Hills cover-up has just been completely blown wide open. A shocking private recording has leaked to the press, exposing the cold-blooded reality of what was really going on behind closed doors between Dorit Kemsley and Mauricio Umansky. Did they really think they could pull off the most psychotic betrayal in reality television history and just walk away completely unscathed? For months, the entire fandom was fed a sanitized version of the story, with public denials and carefully crafted media statements trying to bury the relentless rumor mill. But this newly surfaced audio recording reveals that the whispers surrounding Dorit and Mauricio were far more calculated, dark, and dangerous than anyone could have ever predicted. The moment the recording hit the internet, the glossy Beverly Hills facade fell completely apart, exposing a strategic dynamic aimed directly at pushing Kyle Richards over the edge. According to insider reports, the leaked tape catches Dorit and Mauricio discussing their long-term plans in detail, right after pregnancy news sent shockwaves through their inner circle. They weren't just stepping outside their marriages. They were actively plotting what comes next. Is this the most sinister plot ever caught on tape? Or are we watching a full-scale social collapse in real time? Buckle up, because the audio you are about to hear changes everything you thought you knew about this friendship. And trust me, it gets way darker. For years, we watched Kyle Richards and Dorit Kemsley act like they were closer than biological sisters on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. They shared lavish vacations, attended high-profile red carpet galas together, cried on each other's shoulders during emotional reunions, and defended one another in every single group confrontation that broke out on screen. Kyle literally introduced Dorit into this elite social circle, vouched for her credibility when the other women questioned her, and welcomed her into her home as if she were genuine family. But behind those blinding white Hollywood smiles, immaculate designer outfits, and perfectly curated Instagram posts, an unbelievably sinister dynamic was quietly taking shape. Kyle had been the undisputed anchor of the Beverly Hills franchise for over a decade, building an entire empire off her personal life, her family dynamics, and her high-profile marriage to celebrity real estate mogul Mauricio Umansky. However, as viewers witnessed over the last few seasons, Kyle's personal world began to fracture under the immense weight of marital strain, intense public scrutiny, and deep emotional isolation. While Kyle was privately drowning, struggling to keep her family together, and attempting to navigate the painful reality of her crumbling marriage, her supposed ride-or-die best friend Dorit was allegedly playing an entirely different game behind closed doors. The public image Dorit presented was that of a polished, glamorous and devoted wife to Paul P.K. Kemsley, but insider reports now suggest that her focus had secretly shifted toward Mauricio and securing her ultimate survival on the show. For months, subtle rumors had been circulating through the Hollywood grapevine about an inappropriate closeness between Dorit and Mauricio. People noticed the lingering hugs, the overly familiar banter, and the suspicious amount of time they spent together without Kyle or PK anywhere in sight. At first, fans dismissed it as classic internet gossip, assuming it was just another exaggerated storyline cooked up by bored bloggers. But as Kyle's marriage to Mauricio officially hit rock bottom, the atmosphere shifted from awkward to deeply uncomfortable. Leaked production reports now claim that the tension between Kyle and Dorit off-camera was far more volatile than what Bravo cameras were allowed to capture. While Kyle was opening up to Dorit in total confidence, crying on her living room couch about her failing relationship and her deep fear of losing her family, Dorit was allegedly taking those exact insecurities and using them to her strategic advantage. Instead of acting as a true friend, sources claim Dorit was positioning herself closer to Mauricio, offering him a listening ear and laying the groundwork for an unimaginable ultimate betrayal. What makes this situation truly terrifying is the level of cold, calculated deception that was happening in plain sight. For years, Dorit stayed at Kyle's luxury estates, borrowed her high-end clothes, leaned on her for emotional support, and referred to her as her ultimate protector in front of millions of viewers. Yet, while Kyle was at her absolute lowest point emotionally, begging Mauricio to fight for their union and try to save their family, Dorit and Mauricio were allegedly holding secret meetings and exchanging encrypted messages right under everyone's nose. Industry insiders suggest that the motivation behind this wasn't just a sudden lapse in judgment or an uncontrollable romantic attraction, It was a ruthless power play designed to execute a total regime change within the show. Dorit knew that as long as Kyle remained the reigning queen of the franchise, her own position on the show was constantly subject to group politics and shifting producer favors. By aligning herself directly with Mauricio, she wasn't just securing a personal relationship. She was aiming directly for the crown, attempting to force Kyle completely out of the picture so she could take over as the central figure of the entire series. The sinister nature of this dynamic reached a point of no return when whispers of a shocking pregnancy began leaking from inner Hollywood circles. The mere thought of a pregnancy involving Dorit and Mauricio sounded like a completely absurd storyline straight out of a trashy daytime soap opera. But the reaction behind the scenes suggested that the panic was very real. When news of the alleged pregnancy reached Kyle's close circle, it triggered an absolute psychological meltdown. Imagine sitting in your own home, completely devastated over the dissolution of your long-term marriage, only to find out that the woman you treated like a blood sister had been privately plotting a whole new life with your husband. Production sources reveal that the moment Kyle confronted the possibility of this betrayal, the entire environment surrounding the cast turned intensely toxic. The atmospheric shift was immediate, as longtime mutual friends were forced to pick sides, and crew members were instructed to remain silent under strict non-disclosure agreements. But despite every attempt by high-powered public relations teams to suppress the narrative, suppress the rumors, and keep the public focused on sanitized storylines, the truth was already clawing its way to the surface. The sheer audacity required to carry out a deception of this magnitude is almost impossible to comprehend. Dorit continued to shoot scenes with Kyle, smiling directly into her face, offering empty words of encouragement, and pretending to be a supportive shoulder to cry on, all while knowing that a massive emotional bomb was about to detonate beneath Kyle's feet. The fake empathy, the tactical hugs, and the performative tears on camera were all part of a carefully constructed screen to keep Kyle confused, isolated, and off balance. Anonymous sources within the production team have since come forward, admitting that the atmosphere on set during those final months was filled with unprecedented paranoia. Kyle knew deep down that something was fundamentally wrong, but every time she questioned the strange behavior or the unexplained distance, she was gaslit into believing that she was simply overreacting due to the stress of her public marital separation. She was led to believe that her anxiety was playing tricks on her mind, making her distrust the very people who claimed to love her the most. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, the foundation was being laid for what can only be described as a complete hostile takeover of the franchise. Mauricio, who had built a massive international real estate brand partly through the global visibility provided by Kyle's reality television fame, was allegedly looking for a way to transition into his next chapter without suffering total reputation damage. Partnering with Dorit offered a path that combined high-stakes drama with guaranteed media dominance, effectively guaranteeing that all eyes would remain on them regardless of the ethical cost. They weren't just stepping outside the boundaries of a friendship or a marriage. They were engineering a massive media event that relied entirely on the systematic destruction of Kyle Richards' mental health and public standing. As rumors of the secret audio recordings began to leak through underground gossip blogs, the tension reached a boiling point. Everyone in Beverly Hills knew that if those tapes ever saw the light of day, the resulting fallout wouldn't just tear apart a reality television cast. It would forever shatter families, ruin multi-million-dollar business empires, and expose the absolute darkest side of Hollywood fame, setting off a chain reaction that nobody could possibly control. And that boiled over into complete chaos the exact second that private recording finally hit the internet, sending immediate shockwaves through the entire reality television industry and leaving every single cast member in a state of sheer panic. This was not some grainy, low-quality audio captured from across a crowded room where you could barely make out what was being said. This was a crystal-clear private voice recording that left zero doubt as to who was speaking and what their true motives were. In the recording, Dorit's voice is instantly recognizable, completely lacking her usual soft, overly polite, and polished public demeanor. Instead, her tone is cold, precise, and shockingly predatory as she lays out a step-by-step strategy to Mauricio on how to handle Kyle's spiraling emotional state. The dialogue exposes a level of cruelty that goes far beyond simple reality television posturing or dramatic group rivalries. Dorit can be heard explicitly stating that the ultimate goal was to push Kyle to her absolute breaking point. ensuring that her anxiety and grief reached a level where she would have no choice but to permanently quit the show or suffer a complete and total mental breakdown in front of the world. The audio catches them discussing the exact timing of their public moves, making it undeniably clear that every single emotional reaction Kyle had on camera was being monitored and exploited behind the scenes. Dorit casually explains to Mauricio that once Kyle was mentally eliminated and forced off the series, no one in the cast would have enough authority or fan support to stop them from taking total control of the show's narrative and inheriting her prime spot as the central anchor of Beverly Hills. Let that sink in for a moment. This was a woman who sat on Kyle's furniture, played with her children, drank her wine, and wiped away her tears, all while actively engineering a psychological campaign to drive her into isolation. The recording reveals that they viewed Kyle's deep emotional attachment to her marriage not as something to respect or tread lightly around, but as a massive weakness that could be weaponized against her. They knew that if they pushed the right emotional buttons, Kyle's visible distress would make her look unhinged to the public, allowing them to frame her as unstable while they played the roles of calm, rational victims who were simply trying to move on with their lives. When the leaked recording reached Kyle, the reaction behind closed doors was described by production insiders as a moment of absolute, unadulterated devastation. Sources reveal that Kyle was in the middle of a private briefing when the audio was played for her, and the moment she heard her best friend's voice casually plotting her downfall, she completely collapsed. She wasn't just angry or crying the way viewers see on television. She was shaking hysterically, screaming in utter disbelief, and gasping for air as the full reality of the betrayal crashed down on her. The production team had to immediately shut down all scheduled shooting commitments for the day because Kyle was completely inconsolable, unable to process how two people she had protected and loved for years could discuss her mental health with such cold, clinical detachment. Crew members who have worked on the franchise for over a decade admitted off the record that they had never witnessed a moment so dark or a human being so completely broken by betrayal. Kyle kept repeating the same haunting words over and over, asking how Dorit could do this to her, while she was literally on her knees fighting to save her family. As if the psychological warfare exposed in the recording wasn't horrific enough, the financial and legal details that began leaking alongside the audio took this scandal into an entirely different dimension of corruption. Leaked financial documents and private text messages that surfaced shortly after the initial audio drop suggest that the alleged pregnancy was being leveraged as a massive economic weapon. According to these leaked reports, Dorit and Mauricio weren't just planning a romantic future together. They were allegedly coordinating a complex financial restructuring designed to divert millions of dollars away from their respective spouses. Insiders claim that massive sums of money were quietly being routed out of joint accounts and funneled into offshore trusts and private holdings, using the unborn child as a legal shield to secure their financial dominance before the divorces were officially finalized. The plan was allegedly designed to leave PK Kemsley completely bankrupt and financially ruined, while simultaneously draining Kyle's marital assets so that when the dust finally settled, Dorit and Mauricio would walk away with total control over both the narrative and a fortune worth tens of millions of dollars. The sheer scale of this economic conspiracy has reportedly sent shockwaves through high-stakes legal circles in Los Angeles, as attorneys begin digging into the validity of these leaked transaction logs. What started as an alleged personal betrayal had officially crossed over into a dark web of financial deception, asset hiding, and calculated corporate sabotage. The leaked text messages exchanged between Dorit and Mauricio show them discussing specific properties, bank accounts, and media deals, calculating down to the exact dollar how much they stood to gain once Kyle was removed from the network's payroll. In one particularly chilling text exchange that circulated among production staff, Dorit allegedly reassured Mauricio that the public would eventually move on from the scandal, writing that as long as they secured the financial trusts and controlled the media narrative, the audience would eventually accept them as the new power couple of Beverly Hills. The absolute arrogance required to map out a person's financial and emotional ruin, while continuing to film a light-hearted reality show with them, is something that has left even the most cynical Hollywood veterans completely speechless. To make matters infinitely worse, the leaked reports indicate that this entire operation was not executed in complete isolation. Key figures within their immediate social circle were allegedly well aware of what was happening and actively chose to stay silent or assist in the cover-up. Whispers have emerged claiming that other prominent cast members were given subtle hints about the ongoing strategy and chose to play along because it served their own personal grievances against Kyle. Rather than stepping in to warn a woman who was visibly drowning in grief, these individuals allegedly stood by, watching the psychological trap tighten around Kyle's neck while quietly preparing to align themselves with the new power dynamic once the takeover was complete. The level of backstabbing and calculated cruelty exposed by these leaks has completely dismantled the illusion of genuine friendship among this group, exposing the Beverly Hills social scene for what it truly is: a Shark Tank where fake loyalty is used as a cover until the moment arrives to strike. As news of the leaked audio and the financial paper trail spread like wildfire across international headlines, the public reaction transformed from simple curiosity into an overwhelming wave of outrage. Fans who had spent years watching these women build their lives on screen felt a profound sense of disgust at the level of deceit that had been taking place behind the scenes. The narrative that Dorit and Mauricio had spent months carefully crafting with high-priced public relations firms completely vaporized in a matter of hours, replaced by a global wave of condemnation. Every single social media post, every past interview, and every scene from recent seasons was suddenly re-examined under a harsh new light, exposing every subtle glance, every passive-aggressive comment, and every fake smile as part of a much larger, highly sinister scheme that was now fully exposed to the entire world. And the catastrophic fallout from that global exposure triggered an immediate, full-scale meltdown across every single level of the Bravo network and the broader entertainment industry. Executive producers and high-ranking network officials were forced into emergency around-the-clock crisis management meetings as the sheer volume of public outrage threatened to derail the entire franchise. The network was suddenly facing an unprecedented public relations nightmare, with millions of furious viewers launching massive online campaigns demanding the immediate termination of Dorit's contract and a complete boycott of any future seasons that featured her or Mauricio. High-profile corporate advertisers, terrified of having their brands associated with such a toxic web of psychological manipulation, financial fraud allegations, and extreme personal betrayal, began quietly threatening to pull their multi-million-dollar ad buys. The glossy, aspirational image of Beverly Hills wealth and glamour had completely dissolved, replaced by a dark legal battlefield where every single participant was scrambling to protect their personal freedom, financial assets, and dwindling public reputations. Inside the network's corporate offices, the panic was absolute, because the scandal had completely shattered the illusion that reality television drama is just harmless, semi-scripted entertainment. High-level network executives realized that the situation had crossed a dangerous line from standard television friction into potential legal liability and corporate negligence. Legal teams were dispatched to audit every single frame of raw, unedited footage from the recent filming production, desperate to determine how much the crew actually knew about the psychological campaign being waged against Kyle while cameras were rolling. The fear of massive lawsuits hanging over the production company was very real, especially as reports surfaced that Kyle's legal representatives were preparing to issue formal subpoenas for all behind-the-scenes communications, production logs, and internal memos. What was once considered a ratings goldmine had suddenly mutated into an radioactive toxic asset that nobody inside the industry wanted to touch without a team of high-powered defense attorneys standing right beside them. Meanwhile, the dynamic among the remaining cast members completely disintegrated into an all-out, paranoid free-for-all as everyone scrambled to distance themselves from the radioactive wreckage. The women who had spent years performing for the cameras were now genuinely terrified of being dragged into the expanding legal and financial investigations. Private group chats that had existed for years were suddenly deleted, phone calls were being secretly recorded, and longtime allies turned on each other in a desperate bid to save their own contracts. Erica Jane, who had already spent years navigating her own brutal legal battles and intense public scrutiny, was reportedly caught completely off guard as online sleuths began analyzing her past interactions with Dorit, questioning whether she had quietly assisted in hiding financial assets or providing advice on how to navigate complex media cover-ups. Lisa Rinna, despite no longer holding a main contract on the current season, found her name dragged back into the mud as fans speculated about her potential knowledge of the hidden dynamic during her final years on the series. The entire social fabric of elite Beverly Hills was tearing at the seams, exposing a desperate, dog-eat-dog survival instinct where true friendship didn't exist at all. While the cast was busy turning on one another like wild animals, Dorit Mauricio and Mauricio Umansky went into total isolation as the public walls closed in around them. Dorit, who had built her entire personal brand on high fashion, flawless aesthetic perfection, and an idealized family life, completely vanished from the public eye. Her social media accounts, which usually featured a daily stream of designer outfits, luxury travel, and curated family moments, were abruptly locked down with comments turned off after hundreds of thousands of enraged comments flooded her pages. The glamorous illusion was completely dead, replaced by the harsh reality of a woman hiding behind locked gates in her mansion, while teams of public relations crisis managers worked frantically to contain the damage. Mauricio's high-end commercial and residential real estate firm, the agency, was simultaneously hit with a wave of severe backlash, as prospective high-net-worth clients began pulling their luxury listings to avoid being associated with his rapidly imploding personal brand and the accompanying financial corruption allegations. The very empire that Mauricio had spent decades building off the back of his visibility on reality television was now rapidly eroding under the weight of his own calculated choices. The emotional state of Kyle Richards, however, remained the central focus of the entire global conversation, as fans from around the world rallied behind her in an unprecedented show of solidarity. The woman who had spent more than 14 years opening up her life, raising her daughters on camera, and serving as the foundational pillar of the Beverly Hills series was now receiving a global wave of empathy. Surrounding herself with a tight inner circle of trusted family members and non-famous lifelong friends, Kyle reportedly cut off all communication with the cast and production staff, refusing to participate in any scripted spin control or staged sit-down interviews. Close insiders revealed that Kyle felt a profound, heavy sense of grief, not just for the death of her marriage and her closest friendship, but for the realization that her entire life for the last several years had been lived in an environment filled with calculated deceit. She wasn't just mourning a breakup. She was forced to reevaluate every single memory, every shared laugh, and every personal secret she had ever entrusted to the people she loved most. As the weeks dragged on, rumor mills began buzzing with whispers that the initial leaked voice note was merely the tip of a massive, hidden iceberg. Investigative journalists and online sleuths began dropping hints about a second, even more explosive audio recording that was allegedly being held by an anonymous party waiting for the absolute most devastating moment to leak it to the world. This second alleged recording is rumored to contain direct evidence of high-level production interference, explicit financial coordination regarding the offshore trusts, and direct commentary from other high-profile Bravo celebrities who were actively egging on the plot to push Kyle off the air. The mere threat of this second recording hitting the public domain has sent the entire entertainment world into a state of total paralysis, as network executives, cast members, and talent managers hold their breath waiting to see whose career will be permanently destroyed next. The story of Kyle Richards, Dorit Mauricio, and Mauricio Umansky has officially transcended the world of trashy pop culture gossip, evolving into a cautionary tale about the extreme dangers of fame, unchecked ambition, and the terrifying cost of reality television stardom. It proved that when the lines between real life and producer-driven storylines are blurred for too long, the human cost becomes utterly catastrophic. The glitz, the glamour, the designer bags, and the multi-million-dollar mansions could no longer hide the dark, predatory reality that had taken root beneath the surface of Beverly Hills. As the public patiently waits for the next inevitable bomb to drop, one absolute truth has become crystal clear to everyone watching. The relationships that were shattered during this brutal fallout will never, ever be repaired, and the landscape of reality television has been permanently changed forever.